Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to week 2 of our English 246 class. Amazing American literature that we're really getting into this week. Last week we got a little start to it. Mostly it was orientation, figuring out how Canvas is set up, taking a look ahead at calendars, making sure we know how to budget our time so we can be successful in this course. You did get to read a little bit of fun stuff with Robert Frost and Susan Glaspell. Hopefully you enjoyed Trifles. How interesting was that, right? Very short play, but lots of very creative ideas and creative ways to talk about those ideas in a way that maybe an audience might be more receptive to, as opposed to just like lecturing someone or talking to them like that. And then we've got some really fun poems that you read over the weekend by Robert Frost, who is one of America's most iconic authors, probably. If you know no other poets, then you probably have heard of Robert Frost. And then we've got Carl Sandburg, who is equally influential. Really, really fabulous work by both of those poets. Hopefully you enjoyed that reading this weekend. On every Monday, I'm going to do a short orientation video like this. It's going to be less than 10 minutes long, fingers crossed. I will try and limit my talking so that you can spend your time reading and working through the materials instead of listening to me yammer on. So I know we're all sad. We're so happy to listen to the melodious sound of my voice every Monday, but I will try and keep the video short for you. Promise. So this week you're going to be watching the recorded lectures on Frost and Sandburg. Those are located in the modules, and I'll show you where in just a minute. Then you're going to be reading about modernism in American literature, and there is a recorded lecture on this as well. This is more of an overview of modernism as a movement and how it intersected with history and cultural events. Really interesting stuff. On Wednesday, you've got an assignment called Modernism Reading Notes. That's going to be due. On Thursday, we get to read a little bit of Stevens, which is fun. His poem, 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, is probably his most famous one, and it's a really unique style of writing in which each stanza of the poem is almost an independent poem in and of itself, which is pretty cool. So we've got a discussion board focusing on 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackboard because it is so iconic. And in order to successfully complete that discussion board, you'll want to watch the Wallace Stevens recorded lecture. That's in the modules as well. So we've got lots of good stuff coming our way this week with some fabulous authors and some really, hopefully interesting recorded lectures. So we'll go ahead and click on the modules tab here. We already did the syllabus, so you can make that smaller. And hopefully you've already had your introduction to the course. If you are struggling at all with working through poetry, this instruction for reading a close poem I think will be really, really helpful. So please check it out as we get into poetry this week. And then we've got our modernism unit. So the way that the modules are divided here is we've got modernism as a movement in American literature, and then we've got postmodernism. And so that's how we're splitting up the quarter. Weeks 1 through 6, we'll focus on the modernism movement, and then weeks 6 through 12, we'll focus on postmodernism. So lots of really good stuff, lots of great examples from really incredible poets and playwrights and authors. So hold on to your socks. They're probably going to get knocked off by all the amazingness coming here. So here are some helpful materials. You do have an assignment on Wednesday that requires note-taking. So here is a little document on how to take notes on poetry. And here is an example of what those notes might look like on a Wallace Stevens poem. So you've got lots of good help for you there. And then as we go down, we've got our poets subheading. So all the PowerPoints have accompanying narration, so do make sure that sound is on. The Modernism recorded lecture link, this is the one that gives you that cultural overview, historical overview of the modernist movement, how it evolved, what were some hallmarks of the movement, that kind of good stuff. And then here's the Robert Frost lecture and the Carl Sandburg lecture and the Wallace Stevens lecture. So all of those lectures we're going to be looking at this week are available for you here. Good stuff, huh? Exciting. I do try and limit them. I try and cap them at 20 minutes because anything more in our brains just turn to mush, right? So we do try and keep them short and sweet as you get into learning a little bit more about the amazing authors we're going to be working with this quarter. So that's what's on the docket for this week. lots of good reading, some good lectures, and then a discussion board. And the cool thing about this calendar is you can click on the assignment and it will take you to the assignment in and of itself. So this 13 ways of looking at a blackbird is asking you to show off some of your poetic skills as well. So I want you to select one of the 12 stanzas of the poem, not the first one, because I give you an example of the first stanza and how to analyze it in the PowerPoint. So don't use that one, but pick any of the other ones and conduct your own in-depth analysis of the lines. Post your analysis to the discussion board. We want at least 100 to 200 words of analysis of the stanza. And then read one of your peers' posts and comment on their perspective. What's something you noticed? Did you agree with their interpretation, or did you see something a little different? Did their analysis deepen your understanding of the poem in any way? Remember, we want to kind of further conversation about the stanza in these discussion boards. So try and keep it like a conversation. If we were in person in class, this would be a discussion with our groups we would have. And so instead, we're going to do it through a discussion board. So try and create some of that dialogue back and forth. Remember, all of our dialogue should be respectful and kind in tone. The great thing about poetry, about literature, is that we all have a variety of perspectives that we bring to the table. Aristotle called this schema, this idea that we all have a very unique life experience that then colors how we not only view the world, but how we view art and make sense of it, particularly in the context, in this case, of poetry. So everyone is going to see this poem a little differently. Everyone's going to understand it a little differently, and everyone's going to have different takeaways from the poem. And that's awesome. Like, how cool is that? That someone could write 13 stanzas and we all interpret it just a little bit differently. It adds such depth and richness to the piece. That's really cool. So if you saw a stanza differently than someone else did, it doesn't mean one of you is wrong. It just means we have these different schemas that we're bringing to the table. And by talking about our interpretations, where they differ, where they might be the same, we're able to enrich our reading, and it becomes that much more of an incredible experience as we connect through art in this really unique way. So yay for schemas and yay for differing interpretations of this kind of writing. So that's my little soapbox. If it ever comes up on Jeopardy, schema was Aristotle's idea, and it means we all understand the world a little bit differently based on our life experiences. So you're welcome. Free Jeopardy answer if you ever make it on the show. As always, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Use the resources in the modules tab. They will really help you as you understand not only the poems, but how they connect in the greater framework of the modernist movement. Have a great week, guys. And as always, reach out with any questions.